AI has been a big topic ever since sci-fi authors began delving into it. Even today, figures like Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking have voiced their opinion on the issue, advising caution with AI or face dire consequences. The big current issue is, of course, what effect AI and automation might have on our jobs.
For a long time, games developers have searched for ways to make the development process easier and quicker. Current methods include generating game engines to use as templates for game worlds or code languages that can be copied and pasted to generate commands and prompts. Basically anything that cuts down on development time. But there may be something new on the horizon, something that could dramatically cut down on the time developers spend working on their games. Like to zero.
Something new on the horizon, like to zero, Horizon Zero Dawn, confirmed,
My God. They warned us.
AI apocalypse.
We didn't react.
AI apocalypse? No, doesn't work.
Apocalypse, there's got to be a book. It feels like an airport book, a bad book.
The Georgia Institute of Technology's School of Interactive Computing in the US has been developing an AI that is capable of learning how to use a game engine. Not only that, it can even replicate classic NES games like Super Mario Bros. The AI monitors a video playthrough of the game and is then given a sprite palette and access to engine mechanics, which it then uses to recreate the game. Like it's nothing, like a damn calculator adding 2 plus 2. Easy as that. The potential use for this technology is obviously limitless, and in practical terms could really speed up games development as the technology advances.
But it definitely does raise questions as to how this technology might affect jobs in the games industry. Companies like Ubisoft and Rockstar employ what are basically small armies of developers to work on their games at this point, often based in a number of studios around the world. Could this kind of quick learning, fast working AI reduce the need for large teams like those in the future?
This might have numerous consequences for the industry. A lot of the times these days, games developers, are talking about the increased costs of manufacturing a game. But the price of a game stays at $60, right? So what do? They introduce season passes, extra content, microtransactions, and all the dubious practices and ways of taking your money off you after selling you the game. But this might actually reduce their production costs, which might mean, possibly that they might not have to rely on those extra means of income after releasing the game. I don't know. It might be bad news for games developers who are looking for jobs because it might reduce the number of jobs, but at the same time, it might make games development cheaper.
I think my number one question is whether or not it can actually create stuff, this AI. I mean, it's fair enough showing it an example of a level and it can then go and copy that pretty closely just on its own, but can it actually come up with a good level? Can it create and imagine what would be good and what would be fun? Yeah, I mean, that's the big question. If it can get to that point, then Jesus, things will change pretty quickly.
How about instead of creating AI to make games, they work on their AI in games, because that's generally quite terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe the AI can come up with some decent AI.
In other weird video game news this week, Polish independent games company The Farm 51 recently released an educational experience on the PlayStation 4 called Chernobyl VR project. It allows players to take a unique walkthrough of the infamous ruined Ukrainian town of Pripyat, where the nearby nuclear facility experienced a catastrophic meltdown in 1986, known as the Chernobyl disaster. The disaster, which is one of the worst of its kind, led to the evacuation of roughly 50,000 people living nearby and leaving lasting catastrophic effects on the region. The whole surrounding area of Chernobyl is still radioactive to this day, with radiation levels being somewhere in the region of 400 times the levels found after the Hiroshima bomb dropped in 1945.
And despite the obvious dangers, some 10,000 people a year visit the ruins of Chernobyl. So this VR experience is supposed to offer a safer, cheaper, easier alternative. It uses photogrammetry technology, which the company says lets them, quote, scan the objects and buildings one to one. That's why you can walk in real Chernobyl. To keep in line with a real-life visit to Chernobyl, the game also comes with an accompanying commentary that provides context to some of the objects and environments that you can see. There's also some 360-degree videos that you can watch at your leisure, again with a tour guide to explain more about the sites around you. So it's kind of like a real-life Fallout, but without the robots or dog meat, and basically it's just not a great place to be.
Probably a better RPG experience than Fallout 4 was, if I'm honest.
Sick Fallout, but this is really fascinating. I love this kind of VR stuff. Anything that's quite creative, and the word educational just is it's a flat word. It doesn't make you go, oh wow, that could be interesting, but it is something that would be really fascinating, I think, just walking around this area and kind of learning about it and learning about what happened and how normal normal people were just living their lives until flipping nuclear disaster happened on their doorstep and they had to leave. It's a black spot in our history and we really need to learn about it, and it's a fascinating thing. It kind of reminds me of the Assassin's Creed Discovery Tour as well, where it's the Assassin's Creed game, but you can just have a bit of an educational tour of ancient Egypt and learn about that. Maybe I am very boring, but that sounds really fun to me.
Oh, it sounds fun to me too, Mike, and I think that the application of VR and AR, which is augmented reality, thanks Mike, I think those applications will become more and more useful with regards to learning about history. I mean, I can't imagine any better experience than sticking on a VR unit and like going around an old medieval castle and learning about how they used to live their lives and learn about kings and knights and all that sort of stuff. That sounds awesome to me, and yeah, this also sounds interesting too.
Still a really
Learning is fun. Learning is fun, guys. And another bit of weird news this week. The death of a Russian ambassador is probably not the first thing you might think of when you hear the words Telltale Game. But here it is. An image of Andrei Karlov, who was shot dead on December the 19th, 2016, was featured in the second episode of Telltale's latest episodic story-driven title, Batman: The Enemy Within. Karlov's killer, a Turkish police officer, deliberately committed the shooting in public surrounded by cameras to ensure the event was recorded, and was himself shot dead by the security forces. The image's use in-game was meant to show security camera footage from a break-in at Gotham Brokerage. They obviously mistook the image for some kind of stock image. That's what we assume, at least.
As of the 8th of October, Telltale Games removed the image and issued a statement saying that they, quote, regret this incident occurred and are taking appropriate action internally to ensure that we continue to maintain high standards in production and quality assurance. Taking a look at the original image, it's maybe a bit feasible that it could be interpreted as a stock image of a staged action scene, but still, this is pretty bad. This is some rough around the edges stuff from Telltale Games here. I mean, it's kind of reminds me of the Borderlands, Tales from Borderlands, which was kind of finished on a skeleton crew. It just immediately makes me think of that of some guy just kind of trying to find a stock image, just going, that'll do, chucking it on the screen, and no one asking any questions until the game surfaces online and people realise, oh my god, that is an actual dead Russian ambassador. I mean, it's the kind of thing that can quite easily slip through the cracks when you think about it.
Not even a year since the incident itself happened. Obviously, they've got to put some checks in there. They've got, I mean, Google have got some sort of service, haven't they, where you can put an image in, it'll tell you when it was first used or when it came onto the internet. That's a very useful service. Obviously, throwing that into part of their process for using these stock images is probably a must at this point.
This is going to be like it's going to be like a weird news roundup, but it's actually been quite serious.
Yes.
The weekly severe news roundup doesn't quite have the same appeal. Well, we tried.
I'm not sure there's any comedy you can squeeze from this, Mike. I'm sorry.
So that was our first attempt at some kind of weird news roundup, and it was actually pretty serious. Do you have any better suggestions down in the comments? Let us know. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this every single day. It's not always this serious. You can watch the video right there if you want, and there's a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. We'll see you next time.